Turning scars into superpowers, the alchemy of pain and purpose. Have you ever wondered what happens when we stop running from our pain and instead turn to face it? When we decide that our scars aren't something to hide, but rather something to harness. I recently had the profound privilege of interviewing Jacqueline Rowe, a visionary whose work has fundamentally transformed how we think about healing, purpose, and entrepreneurship. She isn't just another voice in the personal development space. She's a revolutionary who has helped thousands reclaim their power from experiences that once threatened to define them. Her approach cuts through the noise of self help platitudes and strikes at something far more profound, the radical notion that our deepest wounds can become our greatest sources of strength. What if I told you that the very thing you've been trying to escape might actually be the key to your liberation? That the story you've been afraid to tell could be the one that sets someone else free? This isn't about toxic positivity or finding silver linings in tragedy. It's about something far more alchemical, the transformation of pain into purpose, of trauma into triumph, of silence into a voice that can change the world. The truth is, we live in a culture that's profoundly uncomfortable with pain. We're taught to medicate it, ignore it, push through it, anything but actually feel it. We celebrate resilience, but only the sanitized version that looks good on Instagram. The messy middle, the ugly crying, the days when getting out of bed feels like climbing Everest. We keep those parts hidden as if they're shameful secrets rather than universal human experiences. But what Jacqueline Rowe's work reveals is that this approach isn't just ineffective, it's robbing us of our power. Your past does not define you, she emphasized, but your power lies in how you transform your pain. This isn't just a feel good quote for your vision board. It's a radical proposition about reclaiming your narrative and your future. Let me share something that illustrates this perfectly. The Pink Parachute Diaries podcast emerged as a platform specifically created to give Black professionals, especially women, a space to share their authentic stories and struggles in professional environments. In a world where many Black women feel immense pressure to hide their scars and trauma just to fit in, this podcast created something revolutionary: a safe, visible space for vulnerability, faith, and honest storytelling. The results were transformative. Listeners reported feeling seen, perhaps for the first time in their professional lives. A thriving community formed around these shared experiences. And most importantly, conversations in multiple industries began to shift toward authenticity and healing. One episode featured Tyria Grimes, whose story exemplified how naming your truth can create ripples far beyond your own healing. Her willingness to speak openly about her challenges didn't diminish her professional standing, it enhanced it, inspiring others to bring their whole selves to work. The podcast didn't just document stories, it redefined what leadership and healing could look like for Black professionals, demonstrating that vulnerability and success aren't opposing forces, but deeply interconnected aspects of authentic power. This is what Jacqueline means when she says naming and owning your story is the first step to healing and empowerment. Silence might be necessary for a season of healing, but your voice becomes a weapon when you're ready to use it, not just for yourself, but for others walking similar paths. I want to pause here and acknowledge something important. This work of transformation isn't easy. It's not a weekend workshop or a 30-day challenge. It's messy, nonlinear, and sometimes it hurts like hell. There will be days when you question everything, when the old stories seem more convincing than the new ones you're trying to write. But here's what makes this journey worth it. On the other side of that discomfort lies a kind of freedom that can't be taken away from you, a power that isn't dependent on external validation or perfect circumstances. Consider the story of Kamal Bembury, a Black professional who found herself caught in the crushing pressure of what many call the Black tax, the burden of having to be twice as good just to be considered equal. Facing burnout and discrimination, Kamel made a decision that, in our achievement obsessed culture, might seem radical. She prioritized her well being above everything else. She integrated therapy, rest, and community support into her daily life, not as luxuries, but as non negotiable necessities. This wasn't self indulgence, it was theirs, as Jacqueline would describe it, a form of resistance and empowerment. The outcome: renewed energy, clarity, and perhaps most importantly, the confidence to advocate not just for herself, but for others in her workplace. Her story, featured on the Pink Parachute Diaries, helped shift workplace cultures toward valuing mental health and authentic leadership among Black professionals. This is what happens when we stop seeing self care as selfish and start recognizing it as foundational to our power. When we understand that healing isn't just personal, it's political, it's revolutionary. But Jacqueline's wisdom extends beyond personal transformation. She also challenges us to think differently about entrepreneurship, not just as a path to financial freedom, but as a vehicle for mission and meaning. Entrepreneurship is about mission, not just money, she insists. When businesses are rooted in truth, service, and community, they become more than profit centers. They become safe spaces, catalysts for social change, legacies that outlive us. The Build in Tulsa initiative powerfully demonstrates this principle. Designed to empower Black entrepreneurs, this program was inspired by the legacy of Black Wall Street, a thriving business district that was violently destroyed in the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. Rather than allowing this painful history to remain just a trauma narrative, Build in Tulsa transformed it into fuel for a mission driven future. The initiative facilitated over 10,000 hours of training, invested $10.5 million dollars in underrepresented founders, and built a network of 400 entrepreneurs. Featured in Forbes, Essence, and Fortune, it has become a national model for community driven economic empowerment. This is what happens when we refuse to let our painful histories have the final word, when we instead use them as the foundation for creating new opportunities, building wealth, and establishing legacies that can transform communities for generations. I want you to really sit with this idea for a moment. What if the very experiences that have caused you the most pain could become the source of your greatest contribution? What if your unique understanding of suffering could be precisely what qualifies you to create solutions that others haven't even thought of? This isn't about minimizing trauma or suggesting that suffering is somehow necessary for greatness. It's about recognizing that our wounds give us perspective, empathy, and insights that can't be gained any other way. When Jacqueline talks about transforming pain into purpose, she's not suggesting we should be grateful for our traumas. She's offering us a path to reclaim our power from experiences that threatened to take it away. The stories from the Pink Parachute Diaries podcast reveal something profound about this process. When Black women professionals created space to share their authentic experiences, the microaggressions, the isolation, the pressure to conform, something magical happened. Their individual stories, once sources of shame or pain, became collective wisdom. Their vulnerability became strength. Their truth telling became a form of leadership that inspired others to step into their own authenticity. This is the alchemy that happens when we stop hiding our scars and instead learn to use them as maps, not just for our own healing, but to guide others who find themselves in similar terrain. But let's be honest about something. Our culture doesn't make this easy. We're bombarded with messages that tell us to move on quickly from pain, to present polished versions of ourselves, to turn our struggles into neat, inspirational sound bites. The messy middle of transformation doesn't make for good marketing. And yet, it's precisely in that messy middle where the real magic happens. It's in the moments when we sit with our discomfort rather than running from it. When we allow ourselves to feel the full weight of our experiences without judgment. When we gather the courage to speak truths that might make others uncomfortable. So I leave you with this challenge, one that Jacqueline Rowe has issued to thousands before you. Name your pain, own your story, and take one bold step toward transforming it into purpose. Your scars are not your shame, they are your credentials. They qualify you to speak to, heal with, and create for others who have walked similar paths. In a world desperate for authentic leadership and genuine connection, your willingness to transform your pain might be exactly the medicine we need. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait until your story has a perfect ending. Start now with whatever broken, beautiful pieces you have, because somewhere, someone needs exactly what your journey has taught you. Your pain doesn't have to define you, but how you transform it, that can become your superpower. And in a world that desperately needs healing, that's not just good for you, it's essential for all of us.